Billikens fans, welcome back. It's Zach Miller and Peter Hale. It's the Midtown Madness Podcast. Before we get going, thank you so much for listening. By the way, thank you to the handful of people that stopped me at Chaffetz and mentioned that they really enjoyed the podcast. It really meant a lot, and it's always good to go through, with the holidays and the new year. It's you're reevaluating things, and you enjoy or appreciate when people do stop and tell you they appreciate what you do. It's season 5. Once again, the Midtown Madness Podcast. We're brought to you by Two Men in a Garden, Salsa, and Pickles. Looking for a slam dunk contribution to your New Year's Eve party? Are you hosting your New Year's Eve party? You want to add to your offerings? Two Men in a Garden Salsa. Whether it's mild, medium, or hot, Two Men in the Garden has you covered. The perfect snack to ring in the new year. Look no further than Two Men in a Garden. Made fresh, simple ingredients with a ton of flavor. Visit them online. May not be able to get that $9.99 shipping by New Year's Eve, but you can get it for after. And if you're in St. Louis, head over to a local grocery store to pick it up for New Year's Eve. You can also, while you're on their website, check out their Kitchen Hub STL. Learn more about that. Follow them on social media at Two Men Salsa on Instagram and Twitter for the latest updates. The new product drops. It's the best. Two Men in a Garden. Pete, we're coming up on the new year. I think it's time that I resolute to change the way I react to this Billiken team. Specifically one player. And after this episode, I promise to give more grace to Robbie Avila.
That's it's gracious of you, Zach, to be able to extend grace to our only superstar.
I just want to express my gratitude, more gratitude to Robbie Avila.
Okay, all right, yes, I second that. I'm looking forward to this new year, new you.
Yep, but it's gonna start after this episode because I got grievances that I didn't get out on Festivus, so. No, we're going to talk about, look, this week, I think we can all agree, not a whole lot to take from a game against an NAIA opponent. I certainly do think there were things to talk about. I think a lot of you know at least the first thing on my list as a thing you can take away. But one of the big dialogues online has been the decline in attendance, Pete. And I want to talk about increasing attendance and ticket sales. We're going to talk about kind of giving away tickets after, but kind of just share some thoughts. First, I would sell all the national anthems to school choirs. Okay, it is a guarantee 100 tickets, 200 tickets. You cold call every public, private, elementary, middle, and high school. You should have the national anthem booked for every game before the season even starts. It's like, acquires like 20 to 30 kids, right? That's at least one parent per kid. High end, 40 to 50 parents, some have both parents that are going to show up. And hell, you got grandparents out there that want to come see their kids sing the national anthem at a sporting event. You set a minimum number of tickets to sell at a special price, like 100, 200, and they sing the national anthem. Now, if you want to, for the A10 games, get a regular singer, bare naked statues, all that stuff, like that's great. But in the non-conference, sell those games. Sell those national anthems. You can get an extra 200, 300 tickets.
Is that how that works? Like they don't just like the people who
it depends.
Groups who sing, they don't get free tickets?
Yeah, no. So I know with the ambush, and this may be just a blanket policy that the anthem singer gets free tickets, and which would be, I mean, I can understand that for again a game when in the conference schedule. When you are, people are showing up to games, regardless of the opponent. But I mean, for those, early season games, sell them to schools. I mean, I know, like I worked with the ambush and I mean, they would whore out the national anthem and God Bless America. If they could throw in a halftime performance too, oh boy, there's 3 choirs right there. But yeah, I think that's certainly one way you can do it. Second, I would get every CYC basketball organization in the metro area. Try to get them a group night, group tickets. Third, there's an obvious disconnect. This is the one that doesn't involve actual ticket sales. I think this one just involves getting these people to use their tickets. And that's the disconnect between the companies or whoever these high rollers are that have those first 6 rows on both sides of the court that just don't show up. Right. I really would like SLU to kind of value their product, I think, in a little bit more, and massage these people back into Chaffetz. Reach out and figure out what's the barrier between coming back and figuring out, and because I'm assuming they're all sold.
I would think so, yeah, or at least almost all of them, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a good question. I do look at Cincinnati, Xavier, the programs around here, and you figure it's the same people getting those tickets here, right? Like they're high up in whatever their equivalent of the Billiken Club is.
Yeah.
Those are more expensive tickets, obviously. People who have had tickets for a long time, but those rows are not empty at Xavier and Cincinnati games. I know both of those teams are good. They're in better shape than we are right now. But you would think it's the same type of people in all situations, right? Who are in all gyms. So why aren't they showing up at SLU? And you know who they are? They're high up in the Billiken Club.
Or their company tickets. I think it's the company tickets. I really I want to imagine that those people high up in the Billiken Club. I think the only real active person that I kind of know that's high up in the Billiken Club is Chaffetz himself, who doesn't use his tickets. I would love to see those tickets go to local professional athletes. Help make, even if you're not coming into the arena, help make Billiken Athletics the place to be. When other athletes show up at the game. I would love it if these major season ticket holders that aren't going to use their tickets did just give them to people that matter. I don't care if you're just a random media member, I get people that in the building to talk about SLU athletics, I guess, or be seen. So I don't know. I
don't know why you wouldn't give your tickets to somebody who will just show up,
Yeah.
That's what I never have understood about it.
I think with Chaffetz, obviously, it's kind of a matter of people know exactly what seats he has, and whatever those people do is on him. So,
right.
So I get that, but I think you could probably trust a couple of Blues players or a couple of Cardinals players to not cause a scene.
Sure.
As opposed to me, who would cause a major scene.
Yeah.
I think they need to figure out why these seats go unused. And maybe they're doing that. Maybe that's on the list of things to do, but that is what I would do. That would be my directive to kind of the ticket office. Actually, it would be my directive to the Billiken Club people, because obviously they are involved with a lot of, those ticket accounts. Moving back to those bands, choirs, groups. I mean, shit, you could bring in a band to do a drumline halftime performance and then have that band do a little bit with the SLU band, right? You do something fun like that. But go back to those bands, choirs, groups that you got to the game and send them a voucher for X dollars off per ticket. No expiration, just for this game, or not just for this game, just for this season. Get them to buy tickets.
Right.
And get them, try to get an extra ticket out of them. I mean, now you could put. I had thought about the idea of putting hey, within a weekend you have to pick out your next game, or within a week pick out your next game. That way you make sure you give a little urgency to the call to action, I guess.
Sure.
But yeah, I think you've got them in. They've seen the product. They're feeling. Hopefully you won. And hopefully they're feeling good about their visit to Chaffetz, and hopefully they want to buy tickets immediately after to the next game. Fifth thing that I have here, and it's not, and I've said it before, and it's not necessarily directed at tickets. It kind of goes to that voucher for X dollars off a ticket, is taking in-game promotions seriously. And I kind of, and I love what they're doing with the on the jumbotrons. They have a QR code now. So as it used to be, if you got there early, you would, like, Dre would walk around and find somebody, or like the director of promotions would walk around and find somebody, pick somebody out. Now it's random through a QR code that you can pull up and enter to be picked, which I think is a great idea.
Do you do it?
I don't, because if I get pulled, they're not gonna. What's the point? I mean, I had my moment.
Okay, throw that one out back in the hat.
Who is Nicholas Papagiorgio? But like taking those times where the cheerleaders come out and they throw the t-shirts, they throw the balls into the stands. Your target audience for that is the people upstairs. Your target audience is not the people in the first 10 rows. Those people are coming back. Get those giveaways up high. Get them to the people that have clearly paid for a single game ticket, because those are the people you're trying to win as repeat customers. First of all, it solves one of my biggest gripes with the experience, is that when the timeout hits and they know it's a souvenir giveaway one, like, all the kids fled down to the front. And that's just, like, that's dangerous. It's annoying, but it's not safe. And by making sure the balls get up higher, you stop that from happening. Eventually it'll solve itself. But I really, and I don't want to be mean to non-adults, but, like, the kids sitting courtside don't need a ball for the 30th time a season. Like, like, tossing, it's just like, you have to reach those people up in the upper deck that maybe it's their first Billiken game.
Sure.
You know, how many times have you heard a story where, oh, my kid went to the game, he caught a ball, it was the first time he went, and he was hooked forever. Any sport. No. Yeah. That's my opinion on that. I have one more. I didn't know if you had any thoughts on the in-game promotions.
No. Give us your. I mean, you're there a lot more than I am, so let's give us your last one.
Okay, my last one, and I think they're doing fairly well with this. They've at least started the process. Is getting concessions closer to the industry standard, which is what City is doing. The Cardinals have started to do better. They don't really do great. They have a lot of, like, in-house creations. They don't really bring in the Cardinals, at least as far as I remember. But City, bring in these local businesses. I love that Pappy's is in there. It's great. A little small on the portion size. I'm not gonna lie. My buddy got a pulled pork sandwich. It was tiny. But no, I love it. I think, get with Noodle House, get with Balkan, get with these the businesses downtown. Get with them. Like, I know there's places in the Central West End. You've got. I mean, even if Humphreys, put in some Humphreys stuff, maybe. I don't know. What's the area right there with, like, Putt Shack and all that, the Foundry, all of that stuff in there. There's all those little shops in there. I don't know if they're independently owned, but maybe you can work something out with those little stands that are in the Foundry.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's a huge deal in winning back fans that come to the game for the first time. I think every experience has to be special, regardless of whatever happens on the court. And I just don't think it's offered right now. It just kind of is. We've got basketball, we've got concessions, we've got some halftime entertainment. You have to wow people now. People can stay in their house now and do pretty much anything from home.
Yeah.
You have to provide an experience, and I think Dre does what he can with limited resources. I love what he does. That was something that I was pulling for to get somebody like with that energy into that position, and I love seeing him with the Blues now. He's working with the Blues a little bit. I think he's splitting time. But one thing that everybody was kind of talking about was giving away tickets, and the attendance at the William Woods game was very, very good. The atmosphere was great, but there are some cons to giving away tickets.
Such as?
That you risk cheapening the product. People don't necessarily feel a need to pay for tickets, or you don't feel an urgency to buy tickets because they know that they can reach out to a couple of friends and say, "Hey, have you seen anything about Billiken tickets for this weekend? Anything free out there?" Really, you really don't have to buy a season ticket right now. I don't see any need to buy a season ticket right now. If you're a fan who's been around the Billikens, it can cheapen your, not only does it make people not maybe feel the need to pay for it, it cheapens the season tickets in ways. Now, I understand it's William Woods. This is kind of a throwaway game anyway, but again, paying $500 per ticket for a season, and then what? So that's what, 18 games or whatever? No, I don't know, 15 games. I don't know. It just feels, and again, I don't care. Like I don't mind that they give away tickets for a game like William Woods. But like you're missing out on that gate as an athletic department, and that can be a problem too. Because right now this program needs that gate to go along with the concessions. I'm sure they did great concession numbers, but that's the one pro, right? Is you get people in the door, you get people paying for concessions. Hopefully they spend an extra $50 two people pay an extra $50 to make up for that ticket cost. That's the play. That's what's happening. And you know what? If it works, great. I just don't think it's long-term viable. And the sad part is it's been going on for 10 years now.
How regularly? Like you say, going on.
Oh, last year it was every game. You could just tell they were papering. Like I know West Pine Bills has talked about how they'll see, X number of tickets blocked off randomly. Right. So I think I don't mind. Look, giving away tickets to organizations like the YMCA. I know they tweeted out something about giving out tickets to YMCA, Boys and Girls Clubs. I think that's fabulous. Anything to get to get young kids to come check out the Billikens, maybe fall in love with the Billikens is fine by me, but I think you have to protect your brand somehow at some point. You can't just continue to give out tickets and then look, that it makes it harder to pull people. You have to be that much better. You have to your product has to be that much better to get people to pay. So there are issues, there are positives. It's just like the MMA promotion at Family Arena when I was working again in sports, they would give you free. The only way you would pay for parking, you pay $20 per car, and tickets were free. So like you could show up with like a van, and it'd be like $5 a person. But no, so there are different styles of doing this sort of thing, and but I think as a Division I college basketball team, you kind of have to protect your brand and believe in your brand and sell your brand rather than giving it away for free. I don't even know if I want to talk about. Do you want to talk about all these injuries? Let's talk about the William Woods game, and then we'll decide if we're coming back to the injuries.
Fair enough.
Because the injuries in the last 5 years have been outrageous, Pete.
Yeah, although Zach, I don't think it's until this year that I think it's really gotten out of hand. When I go back and I did today after you had kind of put this in the notes, I did kind of look back, and I just, I think overall
Oh, I forgot about Mike Meadows.
it's been kind of, maybe more unlucky than not, but there's not enough here for me to go. There's like a gross failure going on.
I
Over
definitely,
the past 5 or 6 years.
I definitely think there's something to be looked at. As far as strength and conditioning, prehab, warming up, cooling down, recovery. It boggles my mind how many players have missed games this season. But let's talk about a game that players missed this game. A lot of players missed this game. But it was a 78-57 win against William Woods on Saturday the 28th at William Woods NAIA school. Pete, run us down the pregame injury report, because it was just another moment where it's like,
Mhm.
all right, well, I guess we'll put my team's on the floor.
Yeah. So we find out about a day ahead of time that Kellen Thames would be out due to his hip issue. Isaiah Swope was initially called doubtful. We found out then on the day of the game that he would be out because of ongoing knee inflammation problems. And then Robbie Avila was listed as questionable on Friday due to an illness, but he ended up playing in this game. And Zach, we did get a little bit of a surprise in this game too when AJ Casey appeared for 3 minutes. First time we've seen him in a while. So there's at least one positive development on the injury report.
I am so intrigued as to what AJ Casey could possibly bring to this team, because there's not a lot of rim protection. Well, we're going to talk about some rim protection, but there has not been much of an inside presence on this team. Kalu Anya, I just don't think has the strength inside to kind of push people around. And I hope AJ Casey can bring some of that big bag of knuckles under the hoop. But it was, again, Schertz talked about wanting to get him in earlier and just didn't. And I think that frustrates me more than anything else, is when you just kind of don't get guys playing time that you could and save some legs.
Sure. Yeah, I didn't know how they'd be managing his minutes. He did only play 3. He's been out for a while because of his, I think, a high ankle sprain. So I assumed he was just on a pretty tight minute restriction, and they just wanted to get him back out there and get up and down the floor a few times. But whether that 3 minutes was supposed to be 6 or 10, I have no idea.
Gibson Jimerson was the beneficiary of some slow defense and some lax pressure on him throughout this game. He gets 28 points, 6 of 14 shooting from 3. I know there will be people out there. There's at least a handful of them that will. What do they call him? Like, what's the joke? Is that he feasts on just absolutely nobody and then just disappears.
Yeah, like he goes crazy in our bye games and is nowhere to be found in our tougher games, and hasn't had a couple, like wasn't against Grand Canyon or the game of Wofford or the game before that. Like, yeah, didn't really give us much in those games, but obviously did in this one. I think the difference for him is just the ability to get open looks. 14 attempts from 3 is more than he's had in a long time, and his kind of 6'5", 6'6" size on the wing and really quick trigger is a problem for a team like this that's smaller, not as athletic. It's a little bit different when you're playing teams that are bigger and more athletic.
Yeah, and he really, you can really see him frustrated. It's still the same stuff as we saw last season, which I think frustrates Billiken fans too. Mm-hmm. That you're seeing a guy play his ass off for 40 minutes, doesn't get many opportunities, and then, of course, doesn't make those opportunities. So, right. Yeah, I mean, look, Gibson is, again, I think we said it when he scored, when he passed Bonner. He's rounded himself into a player after being brought in to be a spark off the bench guy from distance. And yeah. I couldn't be more impressed with the way he's taken the challenge, and I thought he played well in this game, of course, against a lesser opponent. But again, maybe this time it will kind of spur him on to conference play and shoot really well.
Sure.
Avila had 23, 6, and 6 in this one, and Pete, I still have no idea. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. I literally started to go through the game. I went full schizo today and started watching the game and was calculating his minuses on defense when he was getting taken, and I ran out of time. I just gave up on it. But like, what frustrates me about Avila is he'll go 23, 6, and 6, but he'll get like one stop on defense. He'll make one defensive play all game. He'll go grab like one tough rebound, and the rest is just kind of like the trash that Coach O'Ryan throws in front of the net in Mighty Ducks 3. It's just kind of like, I don't know. It doesn't. I love what he does on offense. I love his passing. I've never seen some of his passing. It's more confusing than Yuri Collins passing because I have no idea how it gets there. I have no idea where the hole was that it went through. But there's so much potential for this team to go on runs by getting defensive stops and growing leads and cutting into deficits. And it is just so frustrating to watch him either just get beat every which way on defense. And I'm over it. I want to see us put a defensive lineup out there. Just see what we can do. Forget offense for 5 minutes and just play D. And I don't know who that has in it. I don't know who's in that lineup, but I know it's not Avila. And I know that's going to piss people off and people are going to call me crazy, but like, I want to see some defense.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I just think the offense runs through him, right? He's the best passing big man in the game, easily. We need him on the offensive end. I feel like, yes, the defense is not good. I'm not as upset about it as you are because I just think it's not just, okay, he's scoring 23 and did he give up 24 in this game or something like that? You know, like I can understand if that's the complaint, but it's everybody else on offense too that he kind of makes he just makes the whole thing work. So for me personally, I'm still giving him those minutes and just trying to toughen him up on defense. And that's how I would be approaching this as a coach.
And I think that's what we need. Like, he is going to get eaten alive by some of these bigs in this conference if he continues to play soft on defense and offense. He can't continue. Like, I need Robbie to not whine at the refs. This is like, if we really want to go like psychiatrist on me right now and come up with my main problem with Robbie Avila is that he's not showing me All-American stuff, but he's whining as if he deserves a whistle, a better whistle than everybody. And like, we saw it. I'm going to go ahead and skip a little bit ahead, but what really frustrated me was watching Amari McCautry at 9:09 remaining in the first half, has his pocket pick near half court, no whistle, looks to the ref, throws his arms up, asking for a whistle. William Woods goes down, misses a dunk on the other end, thankfully, but not playing to the whistle is inexcusable. And this goes back to every time I've ever seen Robbie Avila, the team leader, beg for a whistle when he's backing somebody down in the middle of the play. The whistle hasn't. He'll do this constantly, and it can't. You can do that when you're an All-American. You can. Mm-hmm. You can't do that when you're a freshman. Like, that's a freshman mistake.
Sure.
So like, I don't like seeing that sort of stuff rubbing off on the freshmen. I'm sure shirts and coaching staff don't like it. I can't imagine any coach likes it, not playing to the whistle. But I think that's my frustration. He's the guy this team's looking to lead them, and doing stuff like that and setting a precedent is not great.
I get that. I think it's a valid criticism. I don't like every once in a while, if there is something where you really did get a bad call, I get like kind of making the ref aware of that, right? But like just slowly backing down guys and begging for fouls, I don't like it, especially because he cradles the ball every time.
Oh,
like he carries that ball.
That guy has it on a hip like a pistol.
I love him, but like
Yeah.
he's already kind of getting away with a little.
Yeah, he's getting a very
generosity.
a very favorable offensive, like non-contact whistle.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think so. So that's one where, I agree with you. I don't like that trend. It's gotten out of control in the NBA, and you see it kind of creeping into college more and more too. And I don't like it, especially like you're right, when it's a freshman and when it's a total boneheaded play that more or less gives up a basket at the other end. That I can't excuse that.
No one else scored in double figures. Dylan Warlick, my man, Mitch Hedberg, Scotty Howard, the werewolf. I mean, he's just enjoyable to watch because he plays hard.
He really does, man. It's
he's Anthony Drea. He's got that Anthony Drea in him.
You saw it in limited minutes in his first appearance, and it's been true. Obviously, he played a lot longer in this game, so he couldn't quite be just a spark plug to come in and give you 6 really energetic minutes. But he really does. I love the toughness. I love the energy. I love the grit. He's always playing a little bit harder than everybody else. It shows, and he comes up with big plays. I think Shirts described him as just a winner, a guy who makes winning plays, and he does that again and again and again. And I'm really enjoying what I'm seeing out of him so far. I don't think he's
you don't like this one. You don't like this comparison, the one that I'm about to make.
Well, go ahead and make the comparison.
So I mean, look, he's 6'5". He's undersized forward. Mm-hmm. I think his skill set, minus the athleticism or point guard skills, I think he's a better shooter, but like he brings the same kind of things that Jordan Goodwin did. And when you have a guy like Robbie Avila, who's not necessarily a rebounder, I mean, he'll get 6 kind of just rebounds by being tall, and in the right position. Like having that undersized guy to go get a board is huge. How many times are we talking about offensive rebounds killing us? How many times have we talked about not having any second chance points? I think the first time Dylan Warlick entered the game, he got an offensive rebound and a foul shooting going to the line. That was the first time he ever entered a game, last game. So I just think he's exactly the kind of tough SOB this team needs when it's got a bunch of kind of soft players, guys who don't really like to throw their nose into things.
I completely agree. I think he brings something, you're right, that is missing from a lot of this roster. He was, in terms of rebounding, he was the only guy who got 2 offensive rebounds in this game. Nobody else had more than 1. He was tied with Avila and Pikaar, 6 rebounds, to lead the team. So he certainly was effective on the glass when you measure him compared to the rest of the team in this game. But yeah, it's just undeniable when you watch him play. He's just kind of willing to go a little bit harder, to do the extra little thing, whether it's jumping on the floor, throwing himself in front of a player to stop a dribbler. He just plays through, right? He plays through everything. I'm really impressed with what he does. Now he needs to show me more on the offensive glass before I'll fully give him a Jordan Goodwin.
Hey, fair enough. I'm just saying. Saying his nose. He has a nose for the same type of ways to impact the game.
He does. I think that's fair. Yep.
Another guy who by the way, I think we got to talk about him. You mentioned him. I've been singing his praises, trying to get anybody who will listen to me to like Max Pikaar finally got some more run. 2 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, and 5 blocks The 5 blocks all in a span, as Billiken Bill mentioned on Billikens.com, within 6.5 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, here's another guy that, again, I don't think he's the second coming. I don't think he's the guy who's going to put us over the top, but he's got something, as I think Taj79 mentioned on Billikens.com. Yeah. He's got something this team does not have and sorely needs, just like Dylan Warlick.
So yeah, you're right. I mean, those did all come, I guess, in that stretch in the first half.
It was wild. That one in the Shadow Realm, I think like a demon came out of me. It was like that same earlier in the season where I just involuntarily spasmed and just yelled out loud.
So he's got a 7'3" wingspan, but I think what might be getting overlooked is just how good he is with his feet. He's really quick to close out. He covers a lot of ground in a really short amount of time, which when you're that long, I guess is possible. If I had seen that he had this many blocks, I would have just assumed, oh, he just had, excuse me.
God bless. And God bless Max Pikaar.
That he just had a matchup against someone who was significantly smaller than him, and he was just picking on one guy. But that wasn't really the case here. These were 5 different blocks, and 2 of them were blocked 3-pointers.
Which, again, we've been talking about how bad our 3-point defense is.
Yeah, and I mean, those were shooters who obviously thought they were opened, and he got out quick on both of those, really quickly. And another one was sort of a chase down of a layup. He got it from behind.
Yeah. That one was the one that went to the Shadow Realm.
2 more that were in the paint. It's just 5 different kind of blocks, and it wasn't all on the same dude or anything like that. So I think we definitely saw flashes of something that, yeah, you're right. We're not a team that blocks a lot of shots. We don't have a lot of length. He really does bring a lot to the defense. Offensively, Zach, I feel like he's still got a lot to learn. I think Shirts said as much after the game. He gave us in 24 minutes just 2 points, and those were both free throws. He missed his only 3. He missed his only 2. He did have 2 assists and only turned it over once, but I just feel like he's still got a ways to go on that end.
Well, yeah, and I agree with that, and I would say the same for Dylan Warlick, right? Mm-hmm. But when you have a glaring error and like defense and you're a losing basketball team, you got to fix the defense, and you've got to run with players that can bring you defense and let the offense hit the back burner for a hot minute. Mm-hmm. Because I think there are points to be had off turnovers, or missed shots. I think there's transition basketball to be played out there, and not have to necessarily worry about Robbie Avila in the half court. And that's why I think that there are stretches of game where I would love to see this team just go straight defense. A lineup of 5, like give the homies a rest that are offense only, and let's get down and dirty on defense. Maybe create some turnovers, maybe get them missing shots, get out and run in transition. Different kind of, play a little bit different with different personnel. I don't know. I want to see a little more defense out of this team, and I'm okay with giving up minutes for an Avila. I really am. I don't think I think if you can, and again, Avila's not a guy with the most endurance. You give Avila 30 minutes, you get him down to 32, 35, and you've got a fresher Avila.
So then you answered, or you asked this question during the game. And
by the way, I want to remind people that this is me tweeting in the moment, just after something happens. Like, this isn't like yes, I do want to know, but like, it's not me making some statement like, oh, Avila's terrible. There's no way he's, I don't know. It's just it's in a moment.
So then make the case for why you're even asking the question. Like, how you're asking why not pair Pikaar with Killian Brokoff at the same time? What you're asking, why not run both of them with each other in a lineup? Yeah,
I'm asking that because I just want to know, because when we've had outstanding defensive possessions, they've been on the floor. One of those two has been on the floor when we've had runs of like really good interior defense. And I just want to know if you compare those two. I mean, you've got Killian Brockhoff, who may not be the greatest shot blocker, may not be a good shot blocker, but I think he moves his feet much better than Avila. I'm confident that he, if placed in a first team situation, he would be able to play better defense than Robbie Avila. I don't know if apparently, according to West Pine Bills, the numbers don't support it. They didn't give me any. They didn't give any numbers. So if they have them, send them over. But like, I just see a more traditional, more fundamentally sound defensive player, a guy who's going to be in the lane, who's going to at least make the opposition think a little bit more than an Avila, right? With an Avila, it's, okay, get into the lane, make a couple of moves, he'll bite on one. You'll either turn around, floater over him, or you'll just go to the hoop because he just went right past you. I think that's what Pikaar brings, too. With his shot blocking, we talked about in one of his previous games where he just put his arms out there and it deterred a pass. It made the guy change the direction of the pass, and they lost it out of bounds. Same thing kind of happened in this game. Pikaar cuts off a drive. They try to wrap pass, and it comes out, and Avila's right there to grab it. Pikaar changes the equation on defense. I want to see what that length and positional defense can do with a Brockhoff on the court. I understand that Avila's offense is that valuable, but I want to see what those two can do together. I don't have as much confidence in Anya on defense as a lot of people do, as well. That's the part of it. I don't trust Anya as much as I don't trust Avila right now, and maybe I'm wrong on Anya, but because people have pointed out that, I mean, he brings a lot to the table that's not quantifiable, but.
Yeah, I think that's true, and it's his rebounding as well. And even if his last couple games haven't been his best, I still saw I've just seen enough this season that I think, especially with the rebounding, that I think he's valuable. But really, the answer to this question to me is just offense. It's just like it's two guys who are new to the offense, who are young, thin, long players. And yeah, as much as they bring to the table defensively, we're gonna run up against some dudes who are gonna outweigh them at least, and are going to be able to kind of push them around a little bit. And then on the offensive end, I just think that if you've got both of them without Avila, yeah, it's just a completely different offensive look for us,
Yeah. No, I mean, I get that. Again, I mean, and I'm okay with that risk. That, yeah, I think is my sticking point, and that where I differ from everybody else.
Yeah,
from anybody who disagrees with me. My point is I'm willing to trade that off at this point because we are not winning and because our defense is bad. Also, I mentioned it. Well, I'll mention that at the end. But Pikaar, getting back to him, he was fantastic. Dear God, please let him stick in the rotation because I think he absolutely brings him and Warlick. They absolutely should be in the rotation for at least 10, 15 minutes a game. 100%.
Yeah, I'd like that. Meanwhile, we talked about Anya, we've talked about McCautry, but those two, along with Kobe Johnson, were the other three starters, and none of them really put up impressive stat lines in this game. We went into McCautry and what bothered you in this game, Zach, but what about Anya? I know it wasn't his night, but what else did you see?
I mean, in this one, it just, I think just his, again, it's the free throw shooting. It's every night. It's the free throw shooting. And I really do want to know at what point, mathematically speaking, does his poor free throw shooting cause him to lose minutes? Like I said, you look at Grand Canyon and Wofford games, they would have likely flipped if he could have shot 70% from the line in both those games. Now, you could say that about the guys that also missed free throws in that Wofford game. But in that Grand Canyon game specifically, what did he go? He went like 6 for 18. So even if he shoots 12 for 18, we win that game. That none of that happens at the end, and we win that game. So like I just don't like I don't know if he is one of the worst free throw shooters in the NCAA. And I mean the last person we had was Hassan French, and Anya doesn't bring near what Hassan French did. And I don't understand how a basketball player is that bad at free throw shooting. Like you're not a basketball player at that point. I'm sorry. Like you're just a guy that stands like that plays defense and can score. I don't know. That drives me insane.
Unquestionably late, close game situations, you have to figure out, are you willing to risk putting him on the line for rebounding? And I think I'd be possession by possession, taking him in and out, just depending on whose ball it is and what the situation is and how much time is left and how close we are and all that kind of stuff. Because you're right. You just can't risk putting him on the line when it matters. Overall, would I still play him? Yeah, I still would. And yeah, how to figure that out, I do not know. But man, he's got to shoot free. He's just got to be shooting hundreds a day.
Yeah, I again, this is another place where I kind of trust Pikaar and Brockhoff. I know people don't agree with me, and that's fine. And it's not based on any sort of. I don't have numbers and it's frustrating to hear Shirts talk about matchups when it's a numbers team. Like that's all we've talked about is like numbers and advanced analytics and offensive system, all this stuff, and then to talk about matchups being a reason why a guy can't play is just kind of it just bothers me a little bit. Not enough to really complain more than that, but
for what it's worth, Killian is 1 for 1 from the free throw line this year. Picard is 3 for 9.
Yeah, he's not that great, but the guy hasn't gotten much time. Let him get some rhythm going, for Christ's sake.
McCautry's 9 for 20.
Oh, McCautry's bad.
Warlick is 6 for 7 though.
Warlick, I would honestly I'd take out Anya and put in Warlick without. No, yeah. No, I think Warlick is absolutely a crunch time guy. I'd love to see him help out with Gibson Jimerson's minutes, kind of get a fresher Jimerson down the stretch and get Warlick more minutes, because I know he obviously isn't the offensive player by far, but I don't think he's that much better on defense. But I love the intangibles he brings, and I think it's perfect when you lose a guy like Jimerson to have a guy that can go kind of. Not make a basket for himself, but kind of make a basket, not offensively anyway, right? He's not a guy that can go get the basket, but he's the guy that can go get the ball and then get the basket. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah.
The rebounding. Despite William Wood's tallest player being shorter than Kaluanya, the Billikens only out-rebounded William Woods by 2 in this one. I've talked a lot, Pete. I'm going to let you talk about the boards.
Yeah, so again, we shot, and this is the next bullet point. It probably should have been before this one, but we shot 16 of 32 from the free throw line. Yeah, so that's part of the explanation, just like Rockio went over last week. So you miss 16 free throws. That's 16 pretty easy rebounds for them. So that's a big part of it. But the number that really bothers me more is that there's only 6 offensive rebounds. That's a low number against an NAIA team. 4 of those were grabbed by our players. 2 of those were team offensive rebounds. The ones that balance out or whatever. So that's what bothers me there, Zach. That's got to be a double-digit number against a team that's this small. That's an NAIA team. This was one that just got to me. But you had a point in here that the Bills were beat on the boards on multiple occasions in pretty embarrassing fashion, Zach. And I'm wondering which ones stood out to you the most, like which situations.
Yeah, I think there were. I don't mind being out rebounded if we're in the mix for the rebound, but there were so many offensive rebounds we gave up in this one. Uncontested rebounds, and then able to go right back up and finish. Like no Billikens in the 314 area code. They might as well not wear the Lou jerseys if they're going to not be in the city when they need to get a rebound. Guards were getting their own rebound on William Woods. Guards were getting their own rebound and putting it back up while still in the air, as if they threw the ball up to themselves off the backboard, which was those are infuriating, man. Like I saw it in the Ohio State game today, where there was one where a shot went up, and I think there was not an Ohio State player within 5 feet of the glass on defense, and it's just you're killing yourself.
Yeah.
And killing yourself, I mean, I mentioned it just in the Discord about 20, 30 minutes ago that the free throw shooting. Well, you look at the margin in this game, and does this win, like you said, 16 of 32, does this win look better to you with 8 more points on the board? I think so.
Yeah, I do actually. It wouldn't have just been the final result, right? But it's throughout the game, your margin's a little bit stronger. Like this game got to within 6, I want to say, at one point in the second half. And that probably doesn't happen if you're just hitting your free throws and keeping this a double-digit game that just feels like it's always going to be a little bit out of reach. But yeah, the free throw shooting has just become a real problem. I want to look right now. Free throw percentage is .636. That is 348th in the country as of this recording. So that's games played through Saturday. 348's bad. That means there's only 16 teams below us in terms of free throw shooting. So that's, we're back to the Goodwin French era where we were just a really bad free throw shooting team.
We're a great defensive team. But like what's I can't tell if it's encouraging or discouraging, because if you look again, like I talked about with Anya specifically, we could be like 10-3 right now if all of our players shoot free throws better. We might be able to grab we might be able to grab 11 wins, right? Looking back at some of those games where things got away from us because we couldn't make free throws early, or just any of those. Like the San Francisco win may not have gotten away from you. The Illinois State game, you probably win that one.
Wofford, Grand Canyon, Illinois State all probably could have been won for that reason. I don't know if it would have been enough. I mean, it wouldn't have been enough just in terms of numbers against either Wichita State or San Francisco. No. But yeah, you're right. You're probably looking at 3 losses instead of 6. Yeah. So and the whole season just feels different.
It does, and I can't tell if that's encouraging or discouraging, because on one hand, you've got a shit pile full of injuries. Mm-hmm. You've got Robbie Avila playing like poop for while he's trying to get back to health, right? You've got Larry Hughes leaves the team. You can't play defense, can't rebound very well, and you're still free throw shooting away from being 10-3.
Right. Yep.
What do I take from that? What do I take from that? Because what are the odds we fix free throw shooting?
Yeah.
What are the odds we fix defense? I don't know.
Probably not going to change that much, right? That's the hard thing to accept, right? The offense, you shoot in this game 54% on 50 overall attempts from the field, 42% from 3, which is on 19 attempts. So those are good efficiency numbers. It's not nearly as many attempts as I would have liked to see. We turned it over 14 times. We only got those 6 offensive rebounds, so we're not giving ourselves enough opportunities throughout the game. I think William Woods had 9 more field goal attempts, which bothers me. But yeah, it's hard to look at, Zach, when you see that free throw number every night, and just every game could have been that much different, right? Even if we're just an average 70% free throw shooting team, a very mid free throw shooting team, it could really have swung some things. And this probably would have been more of a blowout.
And it looks great because you did it without Swope.
Yes,
You
that's
win
right.
by what, 28 at that point? If you make eight more free throws?
Yeah,
Because
right.
it was what, a 21-point win. You win by
Right.
what, 9?
So you're winning by
29?
more like 30, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess the good news is here. The young guys are getting opportunities. Shirts flat out said as much. The young guys are going to get more opportunities. It's just like that's kind of the result of having this many injuries. And the other thing is, like, coming into this game, he said it, we said it. We knew William Woods was going to be a pesky opponent,
Yeah.
right? They were just that.
They play good ball. They don't necessarily have good players.
Yeah, that they make the most of it for sure. They luckily they only shot 6 of 22 from 3. Part of that is Pikaar getting out there and tipping a couple of those. But there were times when this did not look like a sure thing, this game, and I was really impressed with them as an NAIA team. I'd like to see them make some noise in that postseason tournament.
Yeah, there was talk about, I think we all in the Discord mentioned that they played good basketball. They played, this is much more helpful to play a bad team that plays good basketball than or a low level team that plays good basketball in their division than a Prairie View A&M, which is Division 1 and just the bottom of the barrel, or even like a Greenville College in a lower division that plays shit basketball. I think everybody makes the team at Greenville, right? I think they have like varsity JV and
they play that Grinnell style,
Yeah.
right, where they use shifts and they play super fast and they'll concede layups to shoot open threes,
which just doesn't help anything.
no.
That's
No,
like
it's
the CYC team that just tries to win. Like the CYC soccer team that just runs through it, just gets their best player and give them the ball and go.
yeah. I do wonder, Zach, if you had Chicago State against William Woods, how that game would go. Chicago State, who we played, is 357th in the net as of today, so there's only 7 teams below them in all of D1. They're still winless, and I do wonder if a William Woods could upset them as an NAIA team. The worst team, for what it's worth today in Division 1 per the net, is Mississippi Valley State. The bottom 3 teams are all SWAC teams, and above them you've got the Citadel, Coppin State, Stetson, and Canisius before you get to Chicago State. So that's kind of who's at the bottom of D1, and I do think a well-coached, good NAIA team like that would be a real problem for some of those teams.
Trying to make sure I didn't, miss anything I wanted to rant about today.
We hit all our bullet points in here, but I don't know.
I thought I might have had a follow up that I skipped over, because when I start going off on one thing, I kind of lose the plot on other things. I don't know, man. Like, I think there are things to take from this game, and that's kind of just the effort, the details. Making the most of your opportunity when you get it. And I think, the young players did that. Maybe save for McCautry in this one. I thought Pikaar was awesome. I thought Warlick was great. Bringing things. It's about bringing things that we hadn't seen yet. I think that's something you got to take from this one. I don't know. I want to see this team rely on depth, because surprisingly, I think they have more depth than Schertz realizes. I do, especially at the front court. And again, Pikaar can play that guard position. He was guarding, guards all like that. Oh, I wanted to talk about that one play because they mentioned it in the post game where Pikaar bit on that fake and got beat like a rented goalie, and then the rest of the time his feet did not leave the ground.
Yeah,
it was beautiful, and I think there's something there with the guys on the bench that can really help this team and really allow its stars to stay fresh late in the game. And I mean, Fordham's going to be tough. Pete, we're going to talk about it here. Fordham's going to be tough because they play a physical, turn you over style, and that is kind of, we have not done well, especially early in games against teams like that.
Yeah, and on the road, no less, too, right? So Tuesday the 31st is when we head to Fordham. It's going to be an afternoon game for New Year's Eve. So hopefully everybody's able to play a little hooky if they're working that day. But hopefully you're off.
Was this game originally scheduled for 4?
I don't know, because it's at 1 St.
Yeah,
Louis
it's
time,
at
right?
1, and I thought it was at because somebody asked me in the arena, and I quite confidently said the game was at the same time as the Winter Classic, which was a bummer. And then I looked at 1. I swear to God, I'm like, maybe I'm an idiot, which I probably am.
It's been on my calendar for 2 p.m. Eastern, so
Okay.
unless it changed very early,
No.
I would have missed that. But anyway, they've beaten Seton Hall at Seton Hall. Actually, they beat Binghamton, Georgian Court. That was the one where that lower division team was late getting there. New Hampshire, Fairleigh Dickinson, Maine, Bryant, and Albany. So a lot of regional minnows that they've beaten so far. They lost at St. John's, at Manhattan, just a couple miles away. Drexel they lost to, and then against Penn State. They've also lost to common opponent San Francisco in the Sunshine Slam. Penn State was down there too. Keith Ergo's in his 3rd season at the helm. He went 13-20 last year after a surprising 25-8 debut season. They have the number 2 scorer in the A10 right now, a 5'11 senior guard named Jackie Johnson III, who started out at Duquesne and played 2 seasons at UNLV before transferring to Fordham. He's averaging 18.5 points on an equal split between 3 and 2-point attempts, although he shoots about 35% from the former and 45% from the latter. Former SLU recruit Jameer Tripp is a 6'6", 230-pound, just a really big-bodied sophomore wing who averages just under 11 points a game. Efficient scorer on all 3 levels, rebounds pretty well, plays active defense. But he's only playing 23 minutes a game after missing some early games due to injury, so he's still working his way back to 100%. They've got a 6-foot senior guard. Is it Yafet or Jaffet? I always forget.
Jaffet Medor.
Yeah, he's the only other guy in double digits, 10.5 points a game. Not the most efficient scorer, but he's more of a point guard anyway. Josh Rivera is 4th in scoring as a 6'7 forward, but he comes off the bench. They've got 6'8 Abdu Sambila and 6'7 Roma Dean, who are probably the 2 who will start in the front court. They're good rebounders. They don't put up big offensive numbers. It's probably a better front court matchup than SLU than most of our non-conference games, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong there, Zach. Maybe they're a little more physical than I give them credit for. But numbers-wise, there's nothing that really jumps out on paper about Fordham. They're pretty average in most metrics. They don't turn it over a ton. They create a good amount of steals. Not entirely surprising for a guard-heavy team that's typically going to be giving up height in most games. Nobody plays more than 28 minutes a game. 9 guys are in double digits, so SLU needs to stay as fresh as possible in this one. They've actually won 5 in a row, although the last 2 have been very close. SLU's going to be playing them after no, that's not right. I said after a 10-day break, but that was William Woods. But bottom line is, look, it's Fordham. There's not a whole lot
I
to
thought
be
you
afraid
meant
of here.
Fordham was on a 10-day break. We were on a break.
Okay. You know what? I worded that wrong. Fordham will be playing SLU after a 10-day break.
To quote
Right.
Ross.
Yes.
We were on a break.
We were on. Okay. Right. I get the reference.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's Fordham, right? They're not a whole lot to be afraid of here. They are behind SLU in the net rankings. The only thing that bothers me is it's a road game. We've seen SLU botch some games here in the past.
Oh, have we?
And like you said, Zach, they are kind of a physical team as well. I highlighted one guy in particular on the wing who I think is going to be a matchup problem, but we'll see down low if they're going to be pretty physical as well.
Yeah, I think, again, physicality. Again, Avila, again, I'm harping on it, but the guy is a viral star. He's a viral star. Everybody wants to take down the guy that gets all the headlines and that they think for no reason, right?
Yeah.
Everyone wants to prove that this guy's a fraud. He's got a big target right on his face. And he's going to get the most physical effort from every guy he goes up against. They know that he's a little soft. They know that's the reputation. You have to play through contact. You have to fight back. Because there are bigs in this league, like I said, that are going to run him over. They're gonna follow you. Like, they know you can't shoot free throws that well. You're shooting what, like 70%, 60% from the line right now. Like, the same with Anya. Again, these guys are you're giving them license to hack the shit out of you because they know sending you to the line is better than letting you get to the hoop. They don't care.
I wonder if we do see that in this game. If
they don't,
they just keep beating up on Anya.
Yeah, they don't care. Like, you have to play through contact. You have to bring some muscle, man. You can't rely on the officiating, especially on the road, especially on the East Coast, especially in the Bronx.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, Philly, you're looking at the same thing. We've got at least 2 games in Philly this year, or 1 game in Philly. Like,
one. Yeah.
These East Coast places, they aren't easy to play as far as officiating goes. So, and the A10 isn't some like knockdown, drag out A-Sun league, right? We have physical bigs, and the refs don't have any sympathy.
Sure.
Friday, January 3rd, it's the debut of the Lou jerseys. It's against St. Joe's. I'll definitely be wearing mine, I'm sure. But I'm excited to see him in action, and hopefully it brings something out of this team, like, the black jerseys used to do for Goodwin and French teams and best teams.
Yeah, let's hope they've got some magic in them. The Hawks are 9-4 this season. They've got wins over Villanova, Penn, Texas Tech, and Virginia Tech. They've lost to teams like Central Connecticut, Princeton, Charleston, and Texas. They are a pretty bipolar team in terms of their outcomes here, Zach. They've won 3 straight, and they'll face UMass before heading to SLU. They have a very distinct big three, and if you're a SLU fan, you know them already. 6'2" guard Eric Reynolds is at 16.5 points a game. 6'9" forward Rasheer Fleming, 16.2 points a game. And then 6'2" guard Xavier Brown. Yes, it is Xavier. The spelling is the most ridiculous spelling you've ever seen. 15.7 points per game. They do have some talent beyond those 3, but everything runs through them. This team knows how to stay out of foul trouble. They block shots. They shoot the 3. They don't necessarily make the 3 at a super high rate, but they're capable of going off on any night.
How many times have we seen this goddamn St. Joe's program shoot the lights out?
I mean, it's one of, like, you look at the numbers, you look at their historical performance, and I'm kind of like, there's nothing here that tells me they're going to make 15 or 20, but, like, they shoot a lot. They play kind of fast. Like,
any day they could just decide to put up 100 on you.
Any day. And sometimes they will do that against a Texas Tech or Virginia Tech, and sometimes they'll do the opposite against Central Connecticut. So you just don't know who you're going to get necessarily. The guards are outstanding free throw shooters, so you got to be careful about who you put on the line. And when I say outstanding, they've got like multiple 90% free throw shooters on this team. This is the kind of game, Zach, that could come down to the decisions of their head coach, Bill Klein. As we've seen before, we've seen some absolute disasters from him in the past, so you just never know what he'll do to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. If they play a smart game, I think they're going to be expected to win it, right? They're going to be the favorites. They've got the big 3 guys. They've
got some wins. They've got credits.
Right. So they're going to be favored to win this thing. But just you can never take it for granted for them. So let's hope those new jerseys have some magic in them, and that we can get a Billy Lang just masterclass in bad coaching.
I wanted to mention one more thing, and that was a Shirts quote that Stu Durando tweeted out. He said, Josh Shirts noted tonight that despite complaints about SLU's non-conference schedule, the Billikens played the second toughest in the A10. He's right. Per KenPom, SLU's schedule ranks 192nd in the country, with only Dayton rating as more difficult in the conference. I see him getting dragged for this, and I don't know. Like, I mean, you've got somebody saying that we're bragging about it. I don't see him bragging about it.
No, he was
I
being
mean,
very
this is
matter of
just
fact.
this is just matter of fact, and like like I mentioned in a tweet, the kind of gist of the kind of conversation landed with this schedule is going to be good for metrics, but like it sucks for season ticket holders. There's nobody of any interest early on, and no big games.
Yeah.
Everything of like high net or RPI, caliber opponent wise was either on the road or neutral.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, like, again, I don't know if Shirts is arguing with anybody.
Well, I think it's the lack of names on it, right, that have people kind of
Yeah.
disrespect
Oh,
them.
yes.
So to you and I and to the people who were paying attention at the beginning of the season, the schedule is basically what we thought it was. We knew Grand Canyon and San. Actually, we thought Grand Canyon would be better. We knew San Francisco was a good game, and some of these other games were actually good games, and that
Santa
it would
Clara.
right that it would amount to a challenging non-conference schedule. To me, the real story here is how bad the non-conference schedule is for a lot of our other A10 competitors.
Yes.
You know what I
I
mean?
think that's a tape. Like, I
Dayton
think his
played.
point was that this entire conference has, there's a reason this conference isn't pulling in auto bid or pulling in at large bids. And it's because nobody can fucking schedule.
Yeah, and
That's the point.
some of that is just the fact that it is we're in the worst possible conference to schedule. Like we just are. If you're outside of the power conferences, no one wants to play you because you're a quad 2 or 3 game, and they want ones and
And we're in the most bipolar conference in the country.
yeah, a lot of really inconsistent programs. It's like
Yeah.
I wanted to play this year's VCU and I wanted to play last year's George Mid. They, you don't quite know what a team is like. Unfortunately, we've only got a couple programs that have been pretty consistent from year to year.
And
And
SLU is not one of them.
SLU's, it pains me to say, not one of them. So there's that, and we've talked about that before, how impossible it is to schedule. But the other thing is, I think a lot of our other conference friends here are just not doing a good enough job with what they
Including
have,
us.
including us. But like, look, I mean, we still were the number 2. All credit to Dayton for giving themselves 5 ranked teams.
Yeah. Oh,
That's pretty.
they played an insane schedule.
They're in a different league in terms of what they played scheduling wise this year. But everybody else, like, I understand that it's hard to schedule and that it's hard to give yourself in our position a top 200 non-conference schedule.
And you
I get
have to
that.
worry about your home games. You have season ticket holders to worry about, which is why I said get the bad teams with the notable names.
But we have 2 teams in our league who have bottom 10 non-conference strength of schedule.
Yeah.
And that's Rhode Island and it's George Washington. And I do think one of those teams is better than the other, and we'll get to that in a minute. But there's no reason that it should be that bad. I mean, like, it's not just that they're playing no big names. They're playing like the worst teams in like the NEC and the MAAC. Like they're playing the worst teams in these conferences. It's fine to play schools from those conferences, but like give yourself quality challenges as opponents. And so I think there's both external and internal problems to solve in terms of getting that up. When I saw that we had the second hardest schedule, I was kind of appalled, to be honest.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think I don't think there's any reason to drag him. I mean, obviously you're going to have opposing fans.
Shirts
that are
is not the
make,
one who needs to be dragged for that. It's VCU's coach.
Yeah.
You know, it's Billy Lang. It's everybody else. It's not Shirts. Shirts
but
is
I
just
think
saying,
I think the you're gonna have those fans that are like, oh yeah, 5 and 6 against that 192 schedule. It's like, yeah, okay, that's fine. But like, what's your point? The
Right.
point was not that we had a tough schedule and that's why our record is bad. I'm gonna sit here and defend him on that. Like, I don't like defending. I don't defend a lot of things recently in the last 4 years that head coaches or administrators at SLU have done. But I'm gonna fucking defend him on this. Like, this quote. I'm not going to defend him on the schedule. I think it's a shit schedule for the season ticket holders. It's not fun. But he's not making a point that this was a tough schedule. He's making a point that it's difficult to schedule a tough schedule that can get you a chance to an at-large bid. Because somebody mentioned on Billikens.com that Dayton, that 40 net Dayton ranking is only going to go down. There is no chance in hell that team is going undefeated.
Right.
They are going to lose 4 to 5 games in conference. And every time they lose, it's good. They're going to take a hit. They're going to take a huge hit. Every time they win, they may still take a hit.
Sure. Yeah. That's
so. Yeah,
very,
I'm defending Shirts here. Shirts just was just saying something, man.
He was just stating a fact.
Yeah, he's just talking. He talks. He likes to talk. I like to talk. Kindred spirits. Let's go around the A10.
Monday the 23rd. We didn't have many games this week, Zach, so this will be quick. But Monday the 23rd, Charleston 77, Loyola 68 in the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic. And then in the 7th place game, Loyola lost again, 71-68 to Murray State on Wednesday the 25th. So they went winless in Hawaii, came in 8th place, unfortunately. The things have gotten tough for them really quickly. Friday the 27th.
Their injuries are absolutely just appalling.
Yeah,
they played a walk-on for 15 minutes in that 7th place game. Apparently. Allegedly, I don't know.
It's gotten tough there. But on Friday the 27th, Duquesne beat Cleary 93-45. Saturday the 28th,
huge win.
St. Joe's 76, Delaware State 58. George Mason 64, Mount St. Mary's 56. Davidson 86, Eastern Michigan 64. And then Florida Gulf Coast 75, Richmond 57. Oof. Zach, I want to preview the A10 season now that we are entering A10 play. I think we got to kind of give a lay of the land and see what we think of these other teams and where we stand in here. So why don't we don't
stand very tall. I'll put it that way.
No, we don't.
Let's start with. Should we start with what it looks like after the non-conference?
Or
do we just go straight to our poll here?
Yeah, why don't you run us through the standings first? Because I think the order of the standings is not the order that we would put them in.
No, not at all.
Teams. Right.
12-1 in the non-conference. St. Bonaventure. For real or no?
I think more yes than no.
What percentage for real are they?
I don't know how to.
One out of four. 1 out of 4.
Put it 3.
Okay. Rhode Island 11-1 in the non-conference. 1.
Yeah. That's fair.
George Washington 11-2. Not for real.
Not for real.
Davidson 10-3. Not for real. Maybe for real.
2.
Intriguing.
Yeah.
Dayton 10-3. This team's for real.
Yeah, they are.
VCU 10-3.
Not as real as Dayton.
Okay.
No, they missed their chance for any marquee.
Like a mid-2000s reality TV show. Mostly real, but not all the way real, but a little scripted.
I think they're all completely fake.
Not back then. It was all innocent fun back then. St. Joe's is 9-4, along with Mason and Loyola Chicago. Fordham and LaSalle are at 8-5. The Billikens are at 7-6. Duquesne 5-8. Massachusetts 5-8. Richmond also 5-8. It sounds like the Fire Mooney Mafia may be making a comeback this year.
Yeah, peel whatever billboards have been placed on top of that old one, and let's get that going again. I'll ask my brother where that's actually located in Richmond.
Our poll, Pete, run us down Dayton here. They're in the top spot.
Dayton's got to be number one. We hate to say it. This is the team to beat. They've got 3 losses, all to top 20 teams, but they also have wins over 2 top 10 teams.
I really wanted that UConn. I wanted UConn to be like the worst team in the Big East this year.
Yeah.
It would have been absolutely hysterical if they would have beat number 1 UConn and then UConn just goes straight into the dumpster.
Well, UConn's still undefeated outside of the state of Hawaii.
God damn it.
I know. It's a weird one. But they put together an unreal non-conference schedule and did pretty well. We thought they might drop off more after Deron Holmes and Kobe Brea left, but they've come back pretty strong with just a more balanced attack. And by the way, they're healthy, right? Their top 10 guys are all active. So if they can keep that up, which they haven't in years past. They've had big injuries in recent years.
It would be a real.
If they can stay healthy, they're really good.
It would be a real shame if anything were to go wrong with this team.
Watch yourself there. That's bad voodoo you're putting out there.
We don't have much else to lose, Pete.
That's true. Okay, fine. Get your little pin cushion dolls out then.
I'm gonna bring a Dayton voodoo doll to the Arch Baron Cup this year. St. Bonaventure, we're gonna pick them second. Didn't see this coming.
No, nobody saw this coming. They're 12-1, and their only losses to Utah State, a good Utah State team that won on a buzzer beater last night, by the way. They don't have any major wins. I think Providence is proving to be relatively weak this season, and that they might have looked at that as their best. But they're taking care of business against a pretty typical Bonaventure non-conference schedule. Missouri State transfer Chance Moore is thriving there, and they get good production out of the top 5. Now, if you're looking for concerns, it's a normal Mark Schmidt team, right? So they don't go very deep. It's a huge drop-off after the number 6 man. And they open the conference schedule against VCU before heading out for 2 road games. So there's a chance here that they could get off to a slow conference start, which could torpedo their season. But based on body of work so far, I think you've got to put them number 2.
Number 3, we've got VCU. I think we thought they'd probably be number 2, kind of going into this season, but it's been kind of a mixed bag.
It has. After a 4-0 start, they had consecutive 3-point losses against Seton Hall and Nevada, right? So that's 2 chances at quality wins right there. And then they dropped a 3rd game later at New Mexico last week. So that kind of ended their hopes of a marquee non-conference win. Miami and Boston College are 2 of their wins, and they're not really doing much for their ratings right now. It looks like they're going to be bringing up the bottom of the ACC. So VCU is an experienced team. They're a better scoring team than we typically see out of VCU. They've got 2 potential all-conference first-teamers in Joe Bamisil and Max Shulga. But it feels like they lack that killer instinct that closes games out and makes life hell on opponents, right? Like that kind of relentless VCU character that we've come so used to. So it'll be a tough start in A10 play because, as we said, they're going to have to go to Bonaventure to start the season, and then they have a 2nd road game in a row to start at Loyola. But they still look like a top 4 team right now. If they can win those 2, they're going to be set up really nicely for the rest of the conference season.
This one is a surprise, and I think this is where the rankings kind of get into a big pile of shit.
Yeah.
We got Rhode Island, and I mean, this is like Travis Ford last 3 seasons as head coach, and then going into this season, they just out of nowhere play well.
This felt. See, I look at this one as like Archie Miller had a rough couple first years to start his career at Rhode Island.
Really rough.
He lost a lot of games, and I think coming into the season, he knew he had to win a lot of games, and
that's why you had that schedule.
He's instead of a schedule that is a non-conference that's going to get you looks for the postseason, he's put a schedule together that is going to give him a lot of wins, that's going to maybe give his team a lot of confidence, and he's going to try and carry those intangibles and the momentum into a good conference season because the numbers just aren't there to justify a postseason for this team. They're 12-1, but like George Washington, they played one of the 10 weakest non-conference schedules in all of D1. Charleston's probably their best win, and I'll give them that it is a good win, but that loss was at Brown. And it's a
Was that the 2 OT game?
I believe so. Yeah, that's right.
That was wild.
So that's a game that's become a real problem for this program. I think they've lost 4 in a row to Brown now. And, if you're a roadie, you want to be up there with Providence winning the state. You know what I mean? Like those are the teams that should be winning the state every year, not Brown, not Bryant. So they do score a lot. They score almost 86 points a game. Again, a little bit inflated there. Led by David Green and Sebastian Thomas. They've got 5 guys averaging double figures. They're an outstanding defensive rebounding team. They get to the line a lot. They're pretty efficient, but it's just hard to say what their numbers would look like against a tougher schedule. So the moment of truth is going to start this week when we find out how much of a pretender they actually are.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't trust Archie. I don't. St. Joe's, speaking of a team I don't trust.
Yeah, leave it to Billy Lang to have this much talent and not be a top 4 team in this version of the A10. They can be one on any given night, but they can also be a bottom 4 team. Their big 3 of Reynolds, Brown, and Fleming can go toe-to-toe with anyone in the conference. This team just can't get out of their own way with Lang at the helm, though. So are they going to be a top 4 team at the end of the season? Maybe. They've got top 3 talent. There's no question about that. I just don't know if they're going to be able to put it together over the course of a season.
Davidson 6th. A tough loss at Temple. The only other 2 losses, though, Arizona and Gonzaga. Davidson, man, I don't know what to make of Matt McKillop as their head coach, at all.
This season feels like the first time where he's kind of starting to form it into something that looks more Davidsonian. They're still a little bit Davidson light to me. They've got 6'11" Reed Bailey. He scores almost 19 points a game, which is tops in the A10 right now. They've got 2 other guys scoring above 15, Connor Kuchera and Bobby Durkin. But it's a lot of anonymous role players after that big 3. They don't quite have the depth that you would like to see at a Davidson team, right? As their losses showed, bigger, more talented physical teams like Arizona and Gonzaga can absolutely bully them, and those were blowouts. But there's enough skill here to beat anyone in this league too. They've always got those tall guys who can shoot. They just haven't proven yet that they can beat good teams. They just haven't done it so far this season. But I think it's starting to slowly come together for Matt McKillop. Whether his ceiling is going to be as high as his dad's very much remains to be seen.
How about Loyola, man? I don't know.
This was easily a top 4 team until the last couple weeks, and the wheels have kind of come off, right? This is a lot lower than we thought we would have them. They lost 3 straight to finish last in the Diamond Head Classic out in Hawaii this past week. Before that, the only loss was to San Francisco. But now with 2 rotation players out for at least a month and another player whose season is over, it just feels like this one might be getting away from him and going off the rails. So depending on how quickly those 2 can come back, maybe by February, mid-February, they look good again, but I don't know. If those guys are not going to be 100% and they've got another guy out for the year, I don't know if they can get back on track. Injuries matter.
George Mason, they are bad, but as of right now, they're better than the Billikens.
Yeah, I hate to have them above SLU. They have a better body of work at this point, undeniable. Back-to-back losses at East Carolina and Central Michigan are disappointments, but the other 2 losses were to ranked teams, Marquette and Duke, so no shame there. Without any strong wins, it's hard to put them any higher than this. Darius Maddox is back, and he's leading them with over 14 points a game. But the next 3 guys are all transfers, and it hasn't quite come together as well as it did early on last season. I think they've got some talented players here. You just want to see them play together more, and maybe it'll start to cohere a little bit.
Also ahead of us, and I fucking hate it. George Washington. They are George Washington's always a fraud. Unless Pops Mensah has a kid and he's on George Washington, George Washington's a fraud.
Yeah, this is a 2-loss team, and yeah, we know that you think they're a fraud. I put
we're
that in
a fraud. Honestly, we're a fraud.
But so those losses were against K-State and crosstown rival American. That was a 10-point loss at American.
Well, everybody's a crosstown rival with American.
I don't know if I get the reference.
It's America.
Yeah. Okay. All right. There was an attempt.
There was an attempt. Put on your hard hat. That joke's under construction.
So their best win by far is Illinois State. We almost beat Illinois State and should have. So there's one common opponent that gives you maybe the reason that I put them ahead of SLU. But Darren Buchanan is a really nice sophomore, averaging 15 and a half and 7.3 rebounds a game. I do like him. But there's no one else that really scares me on this team. They play relatively fast. They get to the rim. They get to the line. They create steals defensively. But again, just not a lot that scares me here. This season just doesn't feel real. The record doesn't feel real. I think that will show in conference play. This is also a relatively young team. And when they start having to face better competition, I think that's going to catch up with them. A lot of teams you'll notice now, it's like half seniors, right? Like you'll look at a team and so frequently their top 5 or 6 guys are all seniors, 4th, 5th, or even 6th year players. This is not one of those teams. They've got a more traditional mix of classes, a lot of underclassmen. And I just think once they start playing better talent, it's going to catch up with them.
Let's get to our beloved Billikens, our oft beloved, sometimes infuriating St. Louis University Billikens. Pete, I want to. The thing about this team, and I said it, I think on the last episode, is there's something. There's something this team is looking for, and I think, again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you Warlick and Pikaar are the answer, but what they brought is what that thing is. That's part of it. Having everybody on this team buy into that same level of intensity, that same level, especially Warlick. If this team can follow that kid's lead into battle,
yeah,
or his example into battle, I think this team has a much higher ceiling than anyone really expects after that non-conference. But if they can't find it, the floor is, I don't like how low it is.
Yeah, I agree with that, Zach. I'm glad he burned the red shirt.
Absolutely.
I'm glad we got him because I really think it's going to come down to how healthy we can get, right?
Yes.
Like we've gone through the injuries already and all season long. Dotzler's out for the year. Casey's just getting back from a 6-week ankle sprain. Avila's ankle is not 100% still. Swope's knee is kind of an issue now. Kobe Johnson is just getting back to form after his shoulder. He's kind of playing through it. But the big question to me here is, can Kellen Thames get back? Can he get healthy? It sounds like he's not going to play at Fordham because of the strained hip flexor against Chicago State. But what about the other issue, the cramping with him? So if he can get back and get healthy, I think that's such a difference maker for us in conference. And if Swope's knee is going to be something that he can play through like he did last season, that's going to be a big difference. So those are the things that I think are really going to be the difference between 4 and 10 for SLU this season.
11th in conference, we have LaSalle. I'm glad we're just above some people.
There's always LaSalle and Fordham, right? Yeah. So LaSalle had a respectable showing in Big 5 play with wins over Drexel and Temple, but they did lose to St. Joe's in a rare A10 matchup in the non-conference. And we love the arena renovation. We wish SLU played there this season. It is. But after a 4-0 start, they've kind of become a pretty typical LaSalle team, which is to say at or near the bottom third of the league. They've lost to UC San Diego, UIC, Northeastern, and UNC in addition to St. Joe's, and really no good wins that you can point to. They do have a fun player. Rider transfer Corey McKeithen has been a nice addition to the A10, 5'10" guard, scoring almost 17 a game. And another fun player, Deshaun Shepard, the best dunker in the league, hands down. Getting Eric Acker back from injury should be a nice boost to this team that otherwise isn't talented enough to be a top half A10 squad.
Let's talk about the fighting bluff blogs. Duquesne.
Well, let's not skip over Fordham.
Oh, no. Fordham's
12.
too high. I mean,
Okay.
to be honest, I thought you had already gone over Fordham because there's like 3 sentences here.
Well, we went over Fordham in our little preview above, so there's just not a lot here. 12 feels about right. The one thing that gives me pause is just that they're on a 5-game winning streak right now, but otherwise, 12th is about right.
Duquesne, Drew Joyce. Is he getting the Tony Bennett treatment from Virginia? Like that seems similar.
Yeah, so
Only except Dan Brott wasn't Tony Bennett.
yeah, so his tenure got off to as bad a start as it could have, going 0-6 out of the gate, limping to a 5-8 record currently. Until that recent UC Irvine win, which I'll give them was a good win. Irvine was one of the last undefeated teams in the country. Lost one and then lost at Duquesne. There wasn't anything good to take away from this non-conference schedule. They just really had a hard time with it. They aren't nearly talented enough yet. They're bad inside at both ends. They don't have much size. They're bad at the free throw line. They're okay from outside, but not nearly good enough from the perimeter to compensate for all the other shortcomings this team has. Very, very much a work in progress. And I guess you could say they're trending the right direction because they are 5-8 and they started 0-6. But after their start, that just isn't saying a whole lot.
Frank Martin's team. I don't care.
The directional school.
Yes, UMass Amherst. Yes,
which will no longer be with us after this season, and I really won't miss them as much as I identify them with the A10 and think there is something culturally weird. I just, as a program, they've never really done it for me in this league. After winning the home opener, they lost 5 straight, and they've added 3 more losses since then. They're actually not bad inside offensively. Not efficient, but not bad. But they're one of the worst 3-point shooting teams in the country. Leading scorer Jalen Curry is a 33% shooter from outside, but the guy with the most attempts is Rasul Diggins. Shoot 27% from the perimeter on over 8 attempts a game. They stink. Good luck in the MAC. We got to beat them this year.
Richmond, man, fire. Start the collection for the billboard.
Get the billboard back up. Yeah, they're 5-8. They've got no good wins and only 1 loss to a good team, which to be fair was a very good team. Number 2 Auburn at the time. Delani Hunt can score over 18 points a game. The second guy, Dusan Neskovic, can be a tricky matchup, but for a team that plays slow, they cannot stop anybody. They don't send anyone to the offensive glass, and they still give up 75 points a game. There's a lot in common with previous Richmond teams stylistically, but you need shooters for this to work, and they're right at like 30% from 3. They've had several good players every season for so long, and that's not true anymore. It's funny because our friend Petey Buckets made the point on Twitter today after I had written this blurb in this poll, just that in the era of perpetual free agency, PFA, he called it for short, it really does not play to Chris Mooney's style. It doesn't play to his program building, right? Like, think about the guys that we got used to at Richmond. They were all there for 5 years. Like, all of those guys, 5-year players, they stayed their whole careers, and they had those like bigs who could shoot and pass from the perimeter. They always had good small guards. They were a tough matchup because they all knew the system and played it well. He doesn't have the horses anymore. He just doesn't. And unless he can get his current crop of guys to stay, and really put in the time in his system, I just don't see how this works in this era. If they're this bad this year, I don't know how Mooney digs out of this unless, it's a very wealthy school. Maybe somebody just says screw it and decides to fund NIL like a top tier A10 team and can go buy them some stretch bigs, I don't know what they're gonna do, man. They're in trouble right now.
Yeah, that's the A10. On the recruiting side of things, this is where you shine. But it appears Schertz was at the SLU High game this week.
Yeah, they played John Burroughs, and John Burroughs has two 2026 players that are priority targets for Schertz's staff, Sheik Pearson and Tristan Reed, neither of whom I would call a SLU lean at this point. Illinois, Mizzou, like a lot of Big Ten SEC schools are involved with these two. Some Big 12 schools, like these are big time players. But
is he related to Terrace?
Yes, younger brother. Yeah, so I think these guys are going to be priorities for Schertz's staff. So we'll see what happens.
It was the T alliteration that really tipped me off.
Yeah, the names Terrace and Tristan just kind of
Terrace and Tristan. Yeah,
for a common last name, you wouldn't otherwise ring a bell.
You know what? It's like Pavlov's dogs. You ring a bell, and I head straight for the 2 men in the garden salsa.
Yeah.
You ring a bell for you head right for the 2 men in the garden pickles.
That's what I did this week, Zach. I told you and I showed you guys last week that I did get a jar of the Spears, and I gotta say, great purchase. They're fantastic. They taste great. They're a lot like the pickle chips in terms of flavor that they have, and they only have them in dill, the classic dill, which is my favorite anyway. The Spears are really good. They're really crunchy. You pull them out of there, I mean, they're heavy. They feel substantial. It's just a really good, no BS, well-made pickle. I strongly recommend it. $7.99 a jar, 2 men in a garden. Fill up a case for yourself. $9.99 nationwide shipping. I'm going to be getting more of these really soon because I like them a lot. I think they're a great buy. I honestly think they're a better value than the other pickles, even though they're a little bit more expensive. I think you get a lot more for it, a little more bang for your buck, and the same great flavor. So head on over to 2minuteinagarden.com and see for yourself today.
2 men in a garden goes down smooth as hell. What doesn't go down smooth as hell is a 83-63 loss at Rhode Island Sunday the 29th. This was the only reason this wasn't a 20. This was a 20-point loss and not a 30-point loss. Is that SLU scores 27 in the fourth quarter against the URI subs. Lipstick on a pig. You know the deal. I will say, Pete, URI got out to a 13-2 start and never looked back. However, I thought that in that first couple of minutes, there was the Billikens strategy was to put the URI offense under as much pressure as possible and try to punch them in the mouth. The problem with that is that URI ducked every one of their punches and then returned with like 5 3-point haymakers.
Yeah.
And it was lights out from the Billikens from there.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, yeah, that's it, right? That's where it just got completely out of hand.
Yeah.
And you realized, like, as many times as we've said, there's no lead that's safe against this team. This game felt like it was never winnable for that reason.
Speaking of getting knocked out, Isabel Tillett was the on the receiving end of a I won't call it a vicious screen. It was a heavy screen set at midcourt by a URI player. Rebecca, she got knocked down, got up holding her face. Tillett was irate with the officials. I understand backing your player. It looks a little weird being that it's your daughter that got blown up. And A, that screen was clean. And B, you were standing right there. Call it out. Like, if nobody's on your team, call it out. Like, that first of all, it's a problem that nobody on this team called it out. Right? But Tillett was like 5 feet away from this.
Yeah.
Like, you saw her standing there. That player did not just appear there.
Right.
I mean, I understand you being upset. Like, it's a tough look because it's your daughter and off the bench, not super productive. I don't know. I don't know how she avoided a technical. By this point in the game, I had it on mute on my second screen. So, but like they went to the monitor. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's. Well, I don't.
There was
I mean, that
nothing.
was clean. It was Conklin-esque, and yeah, that was a hell of a hit.
Yeah, that was a tough one to get up from. But look, I mean, like we said, this game was already out of hand by that point. SLU scored 15 in the first, 9 in the second, 12 in the third. Brooklyn Gray led them with 19 points off the bench. She was good in this game, but like also I think everyone had some bad moments in this, and she was no exception. Kennedy Calhoun, 14 points, 4 assists, 3 rebounds, and 4 turnovers. So like kind of a solid game for her, a little more scoring than you normally see, but kind of a typical one of her games. Everyone else really struggled though, Zach. Peyton Kennedy had only 10 points in 25 minutes. Mia Bergstrom started but got into foul trouble with 3 in just 14 minutes. Hannah Wallace also started, had 2 points and 3 turnovers in 11 minutes. After being so dominant around the basket lately, Tiara Simon had 2 points, both on free throws, and 5 rebounds, missed all 5 of her shot attempts. Not her game at all, but really the whole team struggled on the glass, with Rhode Island grabbing 39 rebounds to SLU's 24. It's really a shame, like after seeing rebounding, get shored up over the last 3 games coming into non-conference, and I know it was against lesser competition, but till it said that was going to be an emphasis, and it was, and it worked. But man, oh man, they did not have any answers inside in this game. So I think a big reason about that, we told you about Honey Carr. She was awesome. 27 points, 10 rebounds. Simon could not stop her or score on her. But it was also the shooting. SLU was only 5 of 18 from 3 compared to 11 for 27 from Rhodey. So there's a big difference. Sophie Phillips went 5 for 8 from 3, had 17 points overall. She became Rhode Island's all-time leader in three-pointers in this game. But Zach, this was just a stinker from the opening tip. And we described how it got out of hand. SLU is outclassed and overwhelmed. Not their day. And now that they're coming back home, you just hope that they can get their ship in order.
And get their shit together. Next up, it'll be Thursday, January 2nd against UMass, I believe. Will this be the Lou jersey game? Oh, no, Davidson.
No, Davidson. Yep.
I should have known. I don't know why I doubted your thorough note taking. So I apologize.
No apology necessary. But UMass is only 500 overall. They're 1-0 in conference after a 78-61 win over Fordham, and they've won 4 of their last 5, so maybe they're pointing in the right direction. They've got 3 players averaging over 31 minutes a game and about 13 points per game. 6'1" forward Megan Olbris also averages over 9 rebounds a game. They've got a guard, Ali Palmieri, shoots about 6 3-pointers per game. And another guard, Yamani McHale. She doesn't attempt as many, but she's more efficient. She shoots over 40% from 3. So those are the big 3 you got to watch out for. Pretty good defensive team. They usually win the rebounding battle. They're not a huge scoring team, though. But fortunately for SLU, this is a home game. UMass is solid, but I think this is a more favorable matchup than Rhode Island. They've just been playing well lately.
The debut of the Lou jerseys will be Sunday the 5th against Davidson. 6-7 overall, but they win an upset Duquesne 76-70 at Duquesne in the A10 opener.
Yeah, and that gives them 3 straight wins after a 4-game losing streak before that. They only score about 64 points a game. Their top 3 is really balanced. Each scores just over 10 points a game. So this is 2 teams in a row now that we're playing where the top 3 all put up really similar numbers. They're more efficient than UMass, but they play a slow, deliberate style, so they tend to be a lower scoring team than UMass. SLU really just needs to be disciplined in this game. I think Davidson's a smart, very methodical team, and I would like to see SLU kind of put some pressure on them. I think SLU could probably out athletic them a little bit, and I think that's where I would like to see them push this game and create a little havoc, make them uncomfortable, and get another win at home.
On the men's soccer side of things, John Klein signed with the Charleston Battery of the USL Championship. Charleston Battery is a very it's a very consistent club in the USL. So it's a good place for Johnny Klein to be. It's good ownership, and hopefully they pay him well, and hopefully things will go well from there, and he'll be back in the MLS.
Yeah. Hopefully it's another shot for him. And like you said, Charleston is one of those teams that you don't hear a lot about. You don't hear a lot of USL team names, but that's one that does pop up from time to time, sometimes in those like Open Cup competitions and things like that.
Baseball side of things, the 2025 schedule has been released. The Base Bills start the season on the West Coast with a 3-game series at St. Mary's on Valentine's Day weekend. That's a little different than what we've normally seen from them, where they usually go to like a Georgia or an Alabama or, that Gulf area of the country.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that they seem to have shifted from the Southeast to California for their primary non-conference games this year. But I think it's cool. I think we've got McGuire's kid and maybe a few other West Coast kids on the team now. So that could make some sense, right? But after Valentine's Day weekend, they come home for a 3-game series against North Alabama. They've got one-off games the following week at SIUE and at home against Southern Indiana. Then they go back out west to Loyola Marymount for 3 games. Play another one-off at Missouri State on March 4th. Then they host South Dakota State for a 3-game series on March 7th to 9th. Conference play opens up with St. Joe's visiting for a weekend series beginning March 14th. For the rest of conference play, they'll have home series against Bonaventure, VCU, UMass, and George Washington. And then they'll go to Dayton, George Mason, Davidson, Richmond, and Rhode Island. Other one-off home games are Bradley, Butler, Western Illinois, Rockhurst, SIUE, and a couple that are still to be announced. And then other single road games right now, they've just got Lindenwood and Western Illinois. So pretty standard schedule, I would say, other than the kind of West Coast stuff to open up the season. But yeah, looking forward to baseball again already.
And of course, don't forget their first pitch dinner. Interesting guest this year.
It's gonna, it's John Mozeliak, right? Who's gonna come talk to him?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess Dan McLaughlin's in the building too.
Oh, really? Okay.
I guess so. I don't know. I guess he's MC. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, they've got that coming up as well. So, be sure and I don't know, get tickets to that if you are so inclined. Should be interesting.
That's gonna do it for us for this episode. Make sure you follow us on all platforms. Go Bills.
Go Bills.